Imagine for a moment that you are walking. You have been walking all day. The road beneath your feet is not a road by any modern standard. It is a deep-rutted track of mud, churned by the wooden wheels of merchants' carts and the hooves of countless horses. It is late afternoon, and a persistent, damp chill has settled over the English countryside. Your woolen cloak is heavy with moisture. Your feet, wrapped in simple leather shoes, are soaked through and aching. You are a traveler in the year 1380. You are not traveling for leisure. In this world, almost no one does. Perhaps you are a merchant, moving your goods from one town to the next. Perhaps you are a pilgrim, on a long, weary journey to a distant shrine. Or perhaps you are simply a messenger, carrying a sealed letter for a lord. Whatever the reason, the sun is beginning to dip below the horizon, painting the gray sky in shades of bruised purple and watery orange. And in the medieval world, the setting of the sun means one thing above all else: danger. The forests that press close to the road are not peaceful nature reserves. They are dark, unknown places, rumored to be home to wolves and, far worse, to men. Outlaws. Bandits who would not hesitate to take your goods, your horse if you have one, and quite possibly your life for the sake of a few silver coins. You must find shelter, and you must find it quickly. Your pace quickens. Every shadow seems to move. Every rustle of the leaves in the wind sounds like a footstep. Your heart beats a little faster in your chest. And then, ahead, through the deepening gloom, you see it. It is not a bright, glowing sign. It is not a beacon of welcome. It is a simple, squat building made of rough-hewn timber and wattle and daub. It sits by the side of the road, looking more like a collapsing barn than a place of business. But from its chimney, a thin gray wisp of smoke rises into the cold air. And hanging crookedly from a post near the door is a simple wooden sign, painted with a crude depiction of a red lion, its colors faded and peeling. This is the inn, the tavern, your refuge for the night. You do not pause to admire the architecture. You push open the heavy, uninveined wooden door. It scrapes against the floor with a low groan. The first thing that hits you is not the light, it is the smell. It is a complex, overwhelming wave of odors. The dominant scent is that of stale beer and sour wine, soaked deep into the wooden tables and the very floor itself. Mingled with this is the sharp, acrid smell of wood smoke from the central hearth, a smoke that stings your eyes because the chimney does not draw properly. Beneath that, there is the smell of unwashed bodies, dozens of them pressed together for warmth and company, the scent of sweat, of damp wool, of leather, and of something else, the faint background odor of poor sanitation. And finally, there is food. Not fine dining. It is the smell of onions fried in fat, the smell of a thick, bubbling pottage, a stew of root vegetables that has been simmering in a great iron pot over the fire, quite possibly for days. Your eyes adjust to the gloom. The room is a single large, low-ceilinged space. The floor is not wood, but hard-packed earth, littered with straw. This straw is not fresh. It is damp and mixed with spilled food, animal droppings from dogs that wander freely, and other unnamed filth. The only light comes from the central fire pit and a few flickering tallow candles made from animal fat that sputter on the tables and give off a greasy, unpleasant smell of their own. The room is loud. It is filled with the roar of voices. Men are shouting, laughing, arguing in a thick regional dialect you can barely understand. In one corner, a man plays a simple three-stringed viol, but his tune is mostly lost in the din. This is not a quiet place for a relaxing drink. This is a chaotic, loud, and slightly menacing hub of medieval life. You pull your cloak tighter around you and scan the room looking for the innkeeper, the alewife, or host. You see her, a large woman with a red face and powerful arms, pulling a measure of ale from a wooden cask. You make your way to the bar, carefully stepping over the outstretched legs of a man who may or may not be asleep on a bench. You have no desire for polite conversation. You have 3 simple, urgent needs: food, drink, and a place to sleep. And you are about to discover that in the 13th century, none of those 3 things are quite what you expect. You push through the crowd, your shoulder brushing against the damp, rough-spun tunic of a man who smells strongly of the pigs he probably tends. You finally reach the crude wooden counter, a long, thick plank of oak set on 2 barrels, stained dark with years of spills. The innkeeper, the hostess, finally turns to you. Her eyes are sharp and quick. They do not welcome you. They assess you. In a single glance, she calculates your worth. She sees your soaked cloak, your weary face, but also the leather satchel at your hip. You are not a beggar, but you are not a lord. You are simply a customer, a paying guest. What do you want? Her voice is a low rasp, barely audible over the din. There is no menu. There are no daily specials. You do not ask, what do you have? You state what you need. Ale, you say, your own voice sounding strange in your ears. And food, and a bed for the night. She holds out a thick, calloused hand, palm up. Payment is not an option. It is a requirement, and it is made in advance. You do not run a tab in a place like this. You might not live long enough to pay it. You reach into the small pouch tied to your belt, your fingers fumbling with the damp leather cord. You pull out a few small, thin silver coins. They are unevenly shaped, hammered flat, and bear the worn-out image of the king. You place 2 pennies in her hand. This is a significant amount. It is more than a skilled laborer might earn in a full day. But you are paying for 3 things: drink, a meal, and, most importantly, the right to not be thrown back out into the road. She looks at the coins. Her thumb rubs across their surface, feeling their weight and texture. In an age of coin clipping and forgeries, a merchant's skill is to test money by feel. She nods, satisfied. She sweeps the coins into a wooden box beneath the counter, the sound lost in the noise. She turns, grabs a tankard from a shelf, and plunges it into a massive, open wooden barrel behind her. The tankard is not clean. It is made of pewter, a dull gray metal, and it feels heavy in your hand. It has been used by a dozen others before you today, and cleaned by, at best, a quick rinse in a bucket of cold, dirty water. She shoves the tankard across the counter. Ale slops over the rim, dark and cloudy. You lift it to your lips. You are desperately thirsty. The first sip is a shock. This is not the crisp, clear, carbonated beer of the modern world. This is ale. It is thick. It is lukewarm. It is almost chewy. You can taste the grain, a heavy, bready flavor. It is barely alcoholic, but it is filling. It is, in fact, literally liquid bread. And for many people in this room, it makes up a significant portion of their daily calories. It is also, you realize, slightly sour. The brewing process is not precise. Wild yeast has gotten into the mix, but you drink it gratefully. You drink it because you know that the water from the local stream or the well in the village is a gamble, a potential source of dysentery or worse. The brewing process, the boiling, has made this ale the safest thing to drink. Now, for food. The hostess does not ask what you want. She simply turns back to the enormous black iron cauldron hanging over the central fire, the pottage we smelled earlier. She ladles a thick grayish-brown sludge into a wooden bowl, one that is cracked and dark with age. She hands it to you, along with a crude wooden spoon. There is no fork. Forks will not be common in England for another 300 years. You look for a place to sit. Every bench is crowded. You finally spot a small three-legged stool near the wall, away from the worst of the smoke. You take it, balancing your bowl on your knees. You stare into the pottage. You can see lumps of unidentifiable vegetables. Turnips, certainly. Onions, perhaps some parsnips. There is barley in it to thicken it. Is there meat? You stir the spoon hopefully. You find a small, stringy piece of something gray. It could be mutton. It could be something else. This stew is the inn's Perpetual Pottage. It is never empty. Every day the hostess simply adds whatever is cheap or available. More water, more vegetables, any leftover scraps of meat or gristle, and more grain. It has been simmering for days, weeks perhaps, the old flavors mingling with the new. It is hot, and it is salty, and that is all you can really say for it. But it is sustenance. It is energy to replace what the long road took from you. As you eat, you look around at the other patrons. They are not here for a quiet meal. They are here for escape. They are here for the warmth of the fire, the comfort of the ale, and the temporary oblivion it provides from a life that is, almost universally, hard, short, and cold. In the corner, two men are now arguing, their voices rising. One of them, a burly man with a thick beard, stands up, his hand moving to the long knife on his belt. The innkeeper shouts something at him, her voice cutting through the din like a whip. The man hesitates, grumbles, and sits back down. This place is a sanctuary, but it is a fragile one. Violence is always simmering just beneath the surface, held in check only by the authority of the hostess and the mutual understanding that this is the only shelter available for miles. You finish your pottage, scraping the last of it from the bowl. You drink the rest of your thick, sour ale. The food and drink sit heavy in your stomach, a warm, solid weight against the cold of the night. You are fed, you are relatively safe. Now, you must face the third and perhaps most daunting challenge of the medieval inn. You have finished your meal. The warmth of the fire and the heavy ale have made your eyelids impossibly heavy. The noise of the room, the shouting and the laughter, now seems to be coming from a great distance. You are exhausted. You need to sleep. You take your empty bowl and tankard back to the hostess. She snatches them from you without a word, her attention already on another customer. "My bed," you say, having to raise your voice. She jerks her head toward a dark, narrow staircase in the corner of the room, a staircase you had not noticed before, hidden in shadow. It looks less like a staircase and more like a steep wooden ladder. "Up," she grunts. "Find a spot." You make your way toward it. You have to step over a sleeping man who is now curled up by the hearth, dangerously close to the embers, his face flushed with ale. He is sharing the warmth with two large, shaggy dogs that seem to belong to no one in particular. You ascend the rickety staircase. The wood groans and flexes under your weight. Each step is worn smooth and concave in the middle from countless feet. You emerge into the upper story, and you are met with a new world of discomfort. This is the common room. It is not a collection of private chambers. It is one long, low-ceilinged attic running the entire length of the building. The roof slants sharply, and you have to duck your head to avoid hitting the rough, exposed rafters. There is no light here, save for the dim, smoky glow that leaks up the stairwell from the tavern below. The smell up here is worse than below. It is the concentrated odor of stale sweat, unwashed linens, and the faint, sickly sweet scent of vermin. And the floor is covered with people. There are no neat rows of beds. Instead, you see 2 or 3 massive, sprawling,
great beds. These are not beds in our sense. They are enormous wooden frames, perhaps 10 feet wide, filled with a deep layer of straw. Thrown over this straw is a single, enormous, filthy linen sheet and a collection of lumpy bolsters and coarse woolen blankets. These beds are already full. Men are lying side by side, packed in like sardines. They are fully clothed, having only removed their shoes and perhaps their cloaks. This is not for modesty, it is for warmth and for security. You do not let your possessions out of your sight. You see a man snoring, his mouth wide open. Next to him, another man coughs, a deep rattling sound that shakes his whole body. You are not just paying for a bed, you are paying for a share of a bed. But these beds are full. There is no space for you. You look around in the dimness. In the spaces between the great beds and lining the walls are more bodies. These are the travelers who paid less or who arrived too late. They are sleeping on the bare floor, or, if they are lucky, on thin, louse-infested straw pallets. This is your option. You find a space of floor, perhaps 5 feet long, between a sleeping merchant's bundle and the damp stone wall. This is what your 2 silver pennies have bought you. You unroll the small, thin blanket you carry in your own pack. It is your only luxury. You do not undress. To do so would be madness. You loosen your belt, but you tie your coin purse, the small leather bag with your remaining money, securely to your wrist with a leather thong. You have heard stories of cut purses who haunt these inns, slitting the strings of purses in the dark with a sharp knife. You lie down on the hard, drafty floorboards. You pull your cloak over you for warmth, and your woolen blanket on top of that. You use your own satchel, the one with your meager belongings, as a pillow. It is hard and lumpy, but you know better than to let it out of your grasp. You lie there in the cold and the dark. Sleep does not come easily. The floor is hard. Your hip bones and shoulders ache. A cold draft is coming from the nearby wall, chilling you to the bone. And then you feel it. A small itch on your neck. You scratch it. A moment later, another itch on your ankle. And then in your hair. The straw on the floor, the straw in the mattresses, the blankets, the very air itself, it is alive. Fleas, lice, bed bugs. They are a constant, unavoidable fact of medieval life. They are the true, permanent residents of this inn. You try to ignore the itching. You try to block out the sounds. The symphony of the medieval night begins. The man next to you coughs again, a deep, terrible sound. From one of the great beds, a new sound. A man is violently ill, retching onto the floor. No one pays him any mind. Below you, through the thin floorboards, you can still hear the roar of the tavern. A chair scrapes. Someone breaks into a sudden drunken song. A woman laughs, a high, shrill sound. You are not sleeping in a quiet, private room. You are sleeping in a public space, a chaotic, dirty, and insecure shelter. You are surrounded by strangers, strangers who are sick, drunk, and possibly dangerous. You close your eyes, pulling your cloak tighter, your hand clutching the small, hard lump of your coin purse. You are not hoping for a good night's sleep. You are not hoping for rest. You are simply hoping for morning. You are waiting for the first gray light of dawn, which will signal that you have survived the night and that you can once again take to the dangers of the open road. You lie there, caught in a strange, liminal state, somewhere between waking and sleeping. True, deep, restorative sleep is an impossible luxury in this place. Your body is desperate for rest, but your mind, your senses, remain on high alert. The noise from the tavern below finally begins to change. The boisterous shouting and singing have faded. The hostess has likely ejected the last of the local drinkers, pushing them out into the dark, cold street, and barred the heavy wooden door from the inside.
But the silence that replaces it is not peaceful. The tavern is now the domain of the overnight guests. The sounds from downstairs are now of men settling in for the night, just as you are. More bodies, finding space on the benches or on the straw-covered floor near the fading warmth of the hearth. You can hear a low murmur of voices, a cough, the thud of a bundle being dropped. Then the last candle is extinguished. The only light, the faint glow from the dying embers, no longer reaches the stairwell. The attic common room is plunged into an absolute, profound darkness. This is a blackness that the modern world has almost entirely forgotten. It is not the darkness of a room with a glowing clock or a streetlight outside. It is an ancient, heavy, suffocating blackness. You cannot see your hand in front of your face. You cannot see the man sleeping 2 feet away from you. With the loss of sight, your other senses become painfully acute. You can hear everything. The man to your left is a whistler. Every time he breathes in, it is a high, thin, reedy sound. The man on the great bed behind you is snoring with a deep, wet, rattling sound, a rhythmic, saw-like noise that seems to shake the very floorboards. You can hear the tiny, skittering sounds in the walls and in the straw, the rats. They are more confident now in the dark. You feel a sudden paranoid itch, and you have to resist the urge to slap at your skin. You can hear the wind. It is a living thing. It moans around the eaves of the building. It finds every crack in the wattle and daub walls, every gap in the roof tiles. A high, thin whistle of cold air that never, ever stops. And then there are the smells. The cold night air seems to concentrate the stench of the room. The oppressive, sour smell of unwashed humanity, of stale sweat, of chamber pots that have not been emptied, and the ever-present greasy odor of the tallow candles, even after they have been extinguished. You shift your position on the hard floor. Your shoulder is numb. Your hip aches. The floor is unyielding. You try to curl into a tighter ball, pulling your cloak over your head to capture a tiny pocket of your own warm breath. Someone is moving. You hear it, the sound of shifting straw, of a heavy body rolling over, a groan, and then footsteps. Your tense body groans. Your eyes are wide open in the blackness, useless. Your hand, the one not tied to your coin purse, instinctively tightens its grip on your satchel pillow. The footsteps are clumsy, shuffling. Someone is getting up. You hear them stumble, a muffled curse. They are moving, unseen, through the obstacle course of sleeping bodies. They are moving, perhaps, towards the ladder to go downstairs to the latrine trench out back, or perhaps they are not. The footsteps come closer. You hold your breath. You can smell them. The sharp, overpowering stench of sour ale. A foot connects with your outstretched leg, hard. The man grunts, stumbles again, and falls, his weight crashing down onto you. You cry out, a sharp intake of breath as a heavy knee lands on your chest. The man is a dead weight, reeking of ale and onions. He curses, scrambling to get up, pushing his hands against your shoulders. "Get off! Get," he mutters, his voice thick and slurred. "Get off me," you hiss, shoving him. He is a dark, heavy shadow, a presence rather than a person. He rolls off, grumbling, and continues his clumsy journey. You are left, heart pounding in your chest, the cold air now feeling even colder on your skin where he touched you. Your leg throbs where he kicked you. There is no apology. There is no, "Are you all right?" There is just the brief, chaotic, and frightening reality of sharing a space with a dozen other people in the pitch dark. You lie back down, shaking slightly. Sleep is even further away now. Time in this darkness is strange. It stretches and compresses. It feels as though you've been lying here for an eternity. And yet it feels as though the night has just begun. There is no clock to check,
There is only the long, cold, dark passage of hours, marked by the chorus of snores, coughs, and the relentless howling of the wind. At some point, perhaps hours later, the room changes. The coughing man has entered into a terrible rattling fit. It goes on, a wet hacking sound that sounds as if he is trying to bring up a lung. Others in the room stir. A voice, rough with sleep, shouts, "Shut your noise, man!" The coughing fit subsides, ending in a low, painful moan. You are lying in a room full of the sick. In an age with no antibiotics, no understanding of germs, a simple chest cold could be a death sentence. And you are breathing the same air, sharing the same space. You are cold. You are uncomfortable. Your skin itches. You are surrounded by the sounds of sickness and the threat of violence. This is not rest. This is survival. You close your eyes again. You try to think of the road tomorrow. You try to think of your destination. You try to retreat into your own mind, to build a wall between yourself and this place. You drift. Perhaps you doze for a few minutes, a shallow, fitful, anxious sleep. You dream of falling, of being chased. You wake with a start to the sound of a rat skittering nearby, convinced for a terrifying second that it was a hand reaching for your purse. And so the night passes, not in a peaceful slide, but in a series of jagged, uncomfortable, and frightening moments, all wrapped in a cold, black, and foul-smelling fog. You are waiting. You are just waiting for the first gray, blessed sign of the dawn. It feels like an eternity has passed, an eternity of cold, of darkness, of itching skin and aching bones. You have been floating in a sea of misery, too anxious to sleep, too tired to be fully awake. And then something changes. It is a sound from far away, cutting through the chorus of snores and coughs inside the room. A rooster crows. It is a thin, defiant cry against the cold and the dark. It is the first blessed signal that the night is broken. You lie still, holding your breath. You almost do not dare to hope. The rooster cries out again, closer this time, from the village, or perhaps from a small coop behind the inn itself. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, the profound, absolute blackness of the room begins to thin. The small, unglazed slit in the wall near your head is no longer an abstract patch of wind. It is a shape, a rectangle of the faintest, watery grayish blue. It is not light. It is just the absence of total dark. This feeble new light creeps into the room like a fog, and with it the room is revealed to you in all its horrific detail. The shadows pull back, and you can finally see what you've been sharing the night with.
The great beds are a tangled, chaotic mess of limbs, grimy blankets, and matted hair. Men are sleeping open-mouthed, their faces sallow and pale in the gray light. You see the man who was coughing. He is curled in on himself, a thin, shivering bundle of rags. You can see the floor. It is, as you suspected, disgusting. The straw is sparse, trampled into a dark, damp pulp in most places. You see the source of the retching you heard, a dark, wet stain on the floorboards near the great bed. You see discarded, gnawed-on bones from some long-forgotten meal. You see the small, dark droppings of the rats. You realize, with a cold knot in your stomach, that you have been lying in this, sleeping in it, breathing it. You look at your own hands, resting on your cloak. They are covered in grime. Your clothes, which were already damp, now feel stiff and foul. The itching on your skin, which you had tried to ignore, now returns with a vengeance as you see the filth you are lying in.
You have an almost uncontrollable urge to stand up and scratch every inch of your body. Movement. Not from you, from the other side of the room. One of the men on a pallet groans, a long, low sound of pure misery. He does not wake up. He simply surfaces from one layer of discomfort to another. He coughs, a thick, productive sound, and spits casually onto the floor beside his bed. This is the signal. The room begins to stir. It is not a pleasant awakening. It is a chorus of groans, of stiff joints popping, of hacking coughs, and of muffled curses as men realize the state of the world. Someone near the ladder, a large merchant perhaps, sits up abruptly. He is a silhouette against the growing light. He hawks and spits. He begins to rummage through his bundles, the sound of an anxious man checking his possessions. This is your cue. You cannot get out of this room fast enough. You sit up. Every muscle in your body screams in protest. Your back is a single solid ache. Your legs are stiff and cold. The dampness from the floor has seeped into your bones. Your first panicked movement is to your wrist. The coin purse is still there. The leather thong is tight. Your skin is chafed raw around it, but it is there. Your money is safe. Your second movement is to your satchel, which you used as a pillow. It is also there, damp but untouched. You do not get dressed. You simply get ready. You pull your boots on. They are still wet from yesterday, and the cold leather is a new form of torture as you force your aching feet into them. You stand up, your body creaking like the inn's own timber frame. You pull your damp, heavy cloak around your shoulders. It smells of wet wool, wood smoke, and the sour stench of the sleeping room. You do not make eye contact with anyone. No one says good morning. The fellowship of the tavern at night is replaced by the grim, silent suspicion of the morning. Every man here is a stranger, a potential rival, or a threat. Your only goal is to leave. You pick your way across the floor, stepping over the still sleeping bodies, avoiding the worst of the filth. You reach the steep, ladder-like staircase. Downstairs you can hear new sounds. The sound of the hostess sweeping the floor, the metallic clank of the iron cauldron being moved. The day has begun. You descend the staircase, one careful step at a time, back into the main room of the tavern.
You reach the bottom of the staircase, your feet landing on the hard-packed, filthy earth of the tavern's main floor. If you thought the room was unpleasant in the smoky gloom of the evening, the morning light reveals its true, squalid nature. The gray dawn, struggling to get through the few, tiny, grease-smeared windows, illuminates a scene of utter chaos. The benches are overturned. The floor, where you can see it, is a landscape of filth. The straw is matted with mud, spilled ale, gnawed bones, and the droppings of the dogs who are now nosing through the debris for scraps. A few men are still here. Some are slumped over the tables, heads in their arms, sleeping off the night's ale. The man who was sleeping by the fire is still there, curled in a tight ball, his face pale and waxy in the cold light. The great central fire, which had been the tavern's warm, beating heart, is now just a mound of gray-black ash with a few dying red embers at its core. The room is cold, colder it feels than the air outside. The hostess is already at work. She is not cleaning, in our sense of the word. She is sweeping the worst of the debris, the bones, the straw, into a pile with a crude birch twig broom. She does this without energy, her face set in a permanent, weary scowl. She sees you. She does not acknowledge you. You have already paid. Your business here is done. You are hungry. Your stomach is a hollow, aching void. You think about food. You look toward the great iron cauldron.
A new, thin, grayish steam is rising from it. The Perpetual Pottage is being revived for another day. The hostess has likely just added a bucket of water from the well and perhaps a handful of wilted onions. The very thought of eating that sludge again, of putting that cracked wooden spoon to your lips, makes your stomach turn. What about bread? You see on the counter the remains of a loaf. It's a trencher loaf. A large, round, dark bread, baked days, perhaps weeks ago. It is as hard as a wooden plank. Last night, this is what the hostess would have used as a plate for the few patrons who could afford solid meat. They would have eaten the meat, and the bread, soaked with grease and gravy, would have been given as scraps to the dogs or thrown back into the pottage. There is no fresh baked bread, no warm, comforting meal. You see a small wooden cask of ale, the small ale for the morning. It is even weaker and more sour than last night's brew. You make a decision. You will not eat, you will not drink. You will simply leave. Your hunger is a small price to pay to escape this place. You are not the only one. The heavy front door, which was barred all night, now stands open, a wide, bright rectangle of cold, gray morning. Another traveler, a merchant with his bundles now strapped securely to his back, is walking toward it. He does not look back. He does not say farewell to the hostess. He simply steps over the threshold and disappears. You follow. You walk past the slumbering drunks, past the hostess sweeping the filth. You walk past the cold, dead fire. You reach the doorway, and you step outside. The air is the first thing that hits you. It is cold, it is sharp, it is damp, and it smells of wet earth, of damp leaves, of pine, and of the clean, cold sky. After the concentrated, suffocating stench of the inn, this air feels like a pure, divine blessing. You take a deep, shuddering breath. It feels as if you are breathing for the first time in 12 hours. It stings your lungs, but it is clean. You stand there for a moment, just outside the door, adjusting your pack, pulling your cloak tight. The mud of the road is waiting for you. The world is quiet. The sun is still hidden behind a thick gray blanket of clouds. The village is slowly coming to life. You can hear a distant hammer on an anvil, the lowing of a cow, a child's cry. You look back, just once, at the tavern. The Red Lion. In the pale morning light, it looks even more decrepit, a sagging, broken-toothed, squalid hovel. It was not a place of rest. It was not a place of comfort. It was not a place of welcome. It was a box, a filthy, louse-infested, dangerous box where you paid good silver to lock yourself in with thieves, drunks, and the sick, all to avoid the other dangers, the ones that roamed the darkness of the road. You have survived it. You have survived the night at a medieval inn. Now you have a choice, back into the filth or forward into the unknown. It is no choice at all. You turn your back on the inn, you set your face toward the long, muddy track that disappears into the misty forest. You clutch your coin purse, you shift the weight of your satchel, and you begin to walk. The road ahead is long, it is cold, it holds its own dangers. But at this moment, as you walk away from the stench, the sickness, and the suffocating darkness of the common room, the open, dangerous road feels like freedom.